welcome. You're watching Medically Speaking, and I am Meenakshi Upreti. Now, it was International Nurses Day a few days ago. That's a day which is not much talked about. These really are the unsung heroes of our times. I'm being joined by Dr. Usha Banerjee. She's the group director of the nursing staff of Apollo. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us on NewsX. Ma'am, nursing, a profession which is so paramount, so critical when we speak of our medical infrastructure. But why is it that you all have not been given your due importance and recognition? Do you think it was the COVID period which showed the significance of the forefront, really, of our medical professional to the world?
First of all, thank you for having me over on this speech today. Wonderful to represent nurses of the country. I would like to say that nursing has been recognized world over as a very noble and a very giving profession, which brings about a lot of technical competency, skill, knowledge, education to be a nurse. Unfortunately, in India, though nurses have done a tremendous amount of work, COVID has put a spotlight on the nursing profession. Why has the limelight not been given to nursing? I think there are multiple factors. I think the entire healthcare ecosystem has always recognized the contribution of the doctors. They are very, very important in the ecosystem, but I think every single individual who takes care of the patient is important, not just doctors, not nurses. Every single support system that enables care is equally important. And nurses play the biggest role because they are the front line. They are with the patient 24/7. You need huge amount of technical skills and competence to be a nurse. And I'm glad you and the entire community, the media, the society, the healthcare system, the doctors, everybody has recognized the contribution of nurses during the COVID crisis. And I think nurses have prominently played a big role to put India back on its map. And we are all beneficiaries of the good work that has come in. So I think it's time. Slowly the recognition is coming. I'm glad. A lot of changes.
Recognition was much needed. It was much awaited. It should have come much earlier. But of course, salute to all the work which nurses have done, especially, of course, when we speak of the COVID pandemic, ma'am. As we say, the spotlight back on nurses. The spotlight should also be on technical education for the nurses. Help us understand the advancement which is needed, the technical education, etc., which is needed far as the profession is concerned, ma'am.
Thank you so much for asking that question. I think very few people have the understanding that to make a nurse, a lot of educational backup is required. Nurses undergo a minimum 3-year program, 2 or 4 years, and then further. So you have a GNM program, you have a BSc program, you have a master's in nursing, you have PhD in nursing, which enables specializations in each of the complex specialty of medicine, surgery, etc. I don't know how many of them know that a nurse's education prepares her to learn anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, sociology, anesthesia, medicine, ophthalmology, gynecology, obstetrics, transplant nursing, cardiac nursing, and much more and much more. So for me, my understanding is as the infrastructure of the healthcare is growing into various complex specialties, it's equally important for us to invest in upgrading the skills of nurses into highly specialized areas. Continuous education, learning and development has to become one of the key cornerstones of enabling nurses to function both in the hospitals, in the primary healthcare centers, or in the community at large.
Ma'am, you say invest in nurses, the need of the hour. Help us understand what is this investment needed? What is it that the government, would you suggest today, needs to do to ensure that our nurses are empowered and educated further, ma'am?
I think it is very, very important to bring in policy reforms which include nurses at the helm of affairs, because nursing is an independent profession. It is nurses and nurse leaders who can contribute to that policy decision. Every single hospital should enable budgets for training and education and higher learning. Today, education around a nurse is all about simulation. We must enable nurses to work along with other teams, especially doctors, technicians, and the support services to enable clinical practice so that whenever a scenario happens in a hospital, that teamwork enables the outcome of the patient's care. So invest in training, invest in budgets, invest in pay, privileges, perks, recognition, empowerment, positioning in the hierarchy of the organization, and enabling nurses to be the true advocate of patients.
So you spoke things, ma'am. One, of course, the salary structures, the pay parity, and secondly, really empowerment and recognition. Empowerment comes, of course, first of all, with recognition and acknowledgement. That acknowledgement has begun ever since, the COVID pandemic hit. Should have come much earlier. That point, of course, absolutely pertinent and valid, ma'am. But in the future, how do we keep this sustained momentum, this focus on nurses? How do we ensure that, the spotlight from nurses is not lost and then focus on doctors? Yes, it's fair enough, it should be there, but how do you suggest in the future we keep this momentum going?
I think a couple of things. People who head organizations should seek every single opportunity to provide that visibility to nurses in most of the clinical stories which are covered, be it to the community, to the patient that they encounter, or to the society at large. Two, I think media plays a very, very big role. Every time media speaks about nursing, it just takes nurses to the next level. Third, I think people like us who head the nursing function have prime responsibility in providing that opportunity for nurses to be visible. So I think it's a collective approach. And finally, I think the patients who are recipients of care will be the best judge to talk about what nurses bring to their recovery and rehabilitation.
Fair enough, point taken, ma'am. Last question, since you spoke of the pay parity and when you speak of media's role as well, we in media are trying to do our job, highlighting the work you do, but at the same time, it's unfortunate, but a true reality of life. In fact, the last time I remember covering any issue related to nurses was only hartals and protests. When it came to them not getting their salaries on time, mostly, of course, nurses affiliated with government hospital, and that should not be the case. How is it that we ensure that the right amount of recognition is given? That can only happen when, to begin with, their pay structure is paid importance and heed to begin with. They're not even paid salaries on time if we speak of government hospitals.
Yes, I know a lot happens around not being paid on time and not being paid adequately. I think there is a lot of work that's being done in order to ensure that these things do not happen. And I wish they never happen, because nursing is a very, very hard job. And
yes,
it is a very, very skilled and technically competent job. So not anyone from any educational background can become a nurse. So due compensation at the right time should become the crux of ensuring that nurses retain their competence and skills, and the impact is profound on the outcomes of healthcare within our country. And I'm glad there is a lot being spoken about, a lot is being done. And thanks to the media, I think every time the media steps in, a lot gets done.
The idea interaction also was to highlight the significance, the role which you all play. As I said right at the beginning of the program, I reiterate at the end that we salute really the spirit of the nurses. We understand how difficult the profession is. And that was the idea, to help the people, the masses also at large, learn and hope that they learn and understand really, the type of work which you put in. We appreciate that. And thank you for taking our time to speak to NewsX, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.